Hello and welcome back to another episode on GMAX Studios. Today, we're going to take a look at how shutter speed affects our pictures and how we can use it to get more creative control over the photographs that we take. As we have discussed, using a fast shutter speed lets in less light into the camera, and a slower shutter speed causes more light to enter the camera. But there is another thing that is controlled by the shutter, and that is the amount of blur that appears in moving objects. So, at a fast shutter speed, moving objects will have less blur, and at slower shutter speeds, there will be more blur displayed. We can use this property of the shutter speed to freeze moving action or objects or blur them as we want by using a fast or slow shutter speed. I try and remember this by what I call the F rule. F for fast, F for freeze. So we use a fast shutter speed to freeze action. So why exactly is the picture blurred when the shutter speed is slow? What happens is while the shutter is open, the object moves, causing multiple imprints on the digital sensor. Therefore, you see a blur. Let us try and see how this works by using this toy helicopter. Since this is moving so much, we will have to try something else. Much better. So now let us try and shoot this at different shutter speeds and see if we can freeze the blades. Even at 1250th of a second, the blades are still blurred. This shutter speed is quite fast, so we realize that the faster the object is moving, the faster the shutter speed needs to be in order to freeze it. So we take the shutter speed all the way up to 1/5000th of a second and finally manage to freeze the moving blades. Not all action freezing would require such a fast shutter speed. For example, this shot of these kids jumping, which was taken for an ad campaign, was taken at 400th of a second. And this shot of a girl splashing water was taken at 800th of a second. One thing to remember here is that it is not as if all frozen action pictures are good and all blurry movements are bad. It depends on what effect you are trying to achieve. For example, this red tape aside, I personally prefer this photo where the blades are blurred because it gives me a sense of movement, while this one looks pretty lifeless. So a slow shutter speed also has its uses. Like if we were to shoot flowing water with a fast shutter speed, it would look like this. But we could deliberately slow down the shutter to blur the flowing water to give it a more milky and dreamy feel. In fact, this is one of the most common uses of slow shutter speed. Some other great uses of slow shutter are creating light trails from car lights. In fact, with a bit of imagination, the same object, like this Ferris wheel, can be shot from different angles with different shutter speeds to give you a lot of different looking pictures. Another technique using slow shutter is called panning or motion panning, where you pan your camera with the moving object, causing the moving object to be actually sharp and everything else to be blurry. Slow shutter can also be used to create a light painting. In this technique, you keep the shutter open long enough to paint the object with an ordinary flashlight, or even enter the frame yourself and use the flashlight to create a pattern around the object or subject. In fact, you can keep the shutter open for a very long time at night to capture the stars as they travel across the night sky. So how do we take control of the shutter speed? The answer lies in the shutter priority mode on the camera. The shutter priority mode is denoted by TV on Canon cameras and S on Nikon. In this mode, You change the shutter speed by using the command dial and set it to whatever value you want to shoot on, and the camera automatically sets the corresponding aperture on its own to give you the correct exposure. So all you need to do is decide how fast or slow you want your shutter to be, and the camera will decide the aperture accordingly. If you are using very slow shutter speeds, do remember to use a tripod, or else the camera itself might shake, causing the entire picture to be blurred. In the next episode, we are going to take a look at how aperture affects our pictures and how can we use it to get even further creative control over the kinds of photographs that we take. We shall also take a look at the aperture priority mode on our cameras. Please subscribe to our channel, leave us a question or a comment in the section below, and until next time, take care.